everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We're here in Mullaghbawn. We're after witnessing the last round of the group stages in the Senior Championship. Cullyhanna have topped Group B, while Mullaghbawn are third, Madden are second. That's how it all works out. We're going to discuss that game and the 4 intermediate playoffs as well. And I'm obviously joined by Johnny Murta. And Johnny, we'll start with this game here. We're after witnessing it. A 3-point win for Cullyhanna, 116 to 113. It didn't look that way maybe at half time and at different stages, but a super second half display by Cullyhanna here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the first half I thought Mullaghbawn were impressive with Kieran Grant. Ultra impressive. Got 4 points, 3 or 4 points. Finding his man on the kick out, excellent all the time, getting the pockets. I thought Cullyhanna really needed to change it up at half time. Instead of going zonal press, more man to man, and they sort of got a lot more joy the second half out of that. Probably a bit of a find there. Pierce McNeil had an excellent game, started his first game here, and for a young fella, very, very impressive. Cullyhanna probably gave him far too much respect the first half and maybe took him for granted a wee bit, but got into space, slotted the ball over the bar. He came away with 4 points, which is a damn good return, but second half really was all about a bit of class. I thought Duffy was strong throughout the whole game. First half and second, and showed a bit of leadership, but Aidan Nugent showed quality the second half, came away with 110 overall. Some of his scores here the second half in particular absolutely excellent. Few iffy frees, few bits of that which you're going to get, but I think the group finishes the way we suspected before throw-in, and Cullyhanna we bit workman-like, but missing Pierce Casey and obviously the issues that come with that, and Pierce's recovery, and we wish him a speedy one, but struggled for a wee while just with Mullaghbawn's height around the middle, and struggled to deal with it, missing a key midfielder.
And Johnny, I suppose at half time, Mullaghbawn, they got a goal inside the first minute. Ryan Kelly got a goal. It was 1-9 to 5 points, and you spoke about that man, Aidan Nugent, 110 overall. But he had a terrific second half. I think he scored maybe 4 or 5 points just straight away after the turnaround. So his impact was huge, and it has been. He scored 2-6 against Pearse Oak last week. So we know all about Aidan Nugent at this stage. But when you have a forward like that, Cullyhanna's always going to have a chance.
Absolutely, and one of the biggest thing that Aidan Nugent has in his game is that he can pull the trigger and he'll put it wide, he'll brush it off, and 2 seconds later he can bark himself to the hilt and maybe take one off his left foot and put it straight over the bar. And that's the difference when you get to this level. You get the senior championship level, you have a quality player that's fit to do that. Former Armagh player, he's at the peak of his powers there in the moment. As you said there, he's coming in massive form, coming in with massive scores, and to come away in a senior championship game, regardless of the situation of it here for Mullaghbawn, let's be honest, but we knew who the contenders was, we knew who was going to be out of the group, but to come away with 110 is highly impressive. And just to finish on his left-footed one in the second half in particular, for anybody that didn't see it here, was straight out of the top draw for a 2-pointer. Was absolutely magnificent score.
And Johnny, I suppose for Cullyhanna going forward, they're obviously into the quarterfinals now. They've had to come from behind all 3 group games to win. They come from behind against Madden. They were winning most of the game. Madden got their noses ahead and they come from behind to win it. The Oaks were winning most of the game last week. Cullyhanna had to come from behind to win it. They had to come from behind today by, I think it was 7 points at half time to come back and win it. So it's obviously the word character and resolve and everything, we're going to use those sort of terms because it shows great character to come from behind. But is there a worry that they're having to do it every week? They'd want to be a bit more comfortable at stages?
There's absolutely a worry because you're not going to get away with it every week, and Brookie and Stephen and them boys are smart enough to know that. It's just not going to happen. They're really going to need they talked about maybe a camp next week to work on a few things. They're really going to need to work on a faster start. They're going to have to get out of the blocks a wee bit quicker. Here's me saying that, and me across, man. We're known for slow starts as well, and that's that's just the way we are about it. But I think for Cullyhanna to go a long way to win their first ever senior championship, it's not going to be enough. Not at this level, not in this late in the day, and probably not in a quarter final, to be honest with you. If you have a slow start in the likes of quarter final, team that's going to be coming in after the draw now this evening. They're going to be cooked. They're going to be ready. There's going to be some interesting ties coming along. But Cullihan is really going to need to work on getting that start a lot sharper for me, Sean.
And just before we move on to the intermediate, I suppose we'll touch on Mullabon because, as you said, coming into this game, I think they had to win by 8 points to get second and they had to win by 25 to get top. So the situation that they were going to get top was never going to materialise. It would have been a massive shock. It looked at a stage maybe they were going to get second place if they had pushed on the second half. But they finished third in the group. They're coming off a 3-point defeat from Cullihan. They're heading into the playoffs, but like they were impressive at times here too, Johnny, and they've owned McDonald to come back in. So Mullabon could have a big say in this championship before it's over.
They do have that. They do have them bunch of players that's fit to perform at a high enough level. It has to be said. Some of them very young, big strong team in certain areas. Some of them still a wee bit rough. Some of them a wee bit. I suppose rough's the wrong word. Just not really refined yet for senior football. But they're getting there. They're trying to build something. They do play a good brand of football. They're missing a couple of key players tonight again, and made a couple of changes to their starting team. Stuff like that. Good to see the legs of Eddie English back on the field as well, which would be, you'd imagine if they are going to go any distance in this championship, they're going to need to keep boys like him healthy and free. Like, McDonald wasn't even tagged out there tonight, and he's not that long back anyway, so they're going to need all them guys if they are going to have a run. It'll be interesting now to see the draw. There's going to be probably here, could be in for another big local derby here, the way the things shaping up here, which you wouldn't be writing anybody off in any of them. So they are going to need a wee bit of luck in the draw, to be honest with you. Probably disappointed a small bit on their discipline there, and did pick up a red card, has to be noted as well, after the whistle for whatever was said to the referee. So their discipline, they're going to have to watch that. That's only one thing. They picked up a lot of cards the second half. So wee small things like that is going to make a difference, Sean, you're coming down the stretch. But like I said, the draw is going to be key.
Yeah, and unfortunately we'll not have the draw. We're recording about an hour before the draw here, so we'll not have it, but we will discuss it later in the week, obviously. Intermediate championship, Johnny will take the games as they came. So Alkmore 110, Clonard seconds, 212. This game, it felt at half time, and a couple of minutes into the second half, once Clonard got a goal, that they were going to run away with it. Alkmore pulled them back into it, they got level, but Clonard finished very strongly and they power through. And I suppose Alkmore, they have that bit of a dogged edge, if for want of a better word, that they can pull themselves back into the contest. But Clonard, they're through, and their team probably nobody really wants to face.
Yeah, nobody does, and we actually spoke with them last week on the podcast and different things like that, and when we seen the draw and stuff, and eight different scores for Clonard again today. McConville and McDonald got the goals, but that's what they're good at. They're good at different guys getting goals, lots of different variety of scores. Very tricky team, and has to be said, it's a convincing win, as well. But Clonard, nobody's going to want to get them in the draw, and it's another team that you don't quite know what you're going to get, and a championship. And we're going to talk about a couple of the other games, but a championship is starting to get a wee bit open looking in certain departments.
And Johnny, just watching the Clonard seconds game yesterday, it was obvious to me they're very young. Obviously, they're very pacey and they're very good forwards. But a little bit, and I don't know if this is a negative way to put it, but a little bit too goal heavy. They're trying to get goals with every attack, and I know, like, even there was a free played short at one stage, it should have been just popped over the bar. Like, it's probably not a bad thing to have in your team, but there was times when maybe taking the point was the safer option.
Yeah, and that's just the way they play. They play really off the cuff. They really, go. A lot of pace, a lot of angle runs, But if they are looking to win in intermediate championship, whenever you get to the letter grounds, it's them fine margins. It's as you said, they're more refined. Be smart enough to keep the scoreboard ticking at the right time and say, right, look at, maybe there's a better option, and trying to work something maybe out of nothing. So play the percentages is what I'd say. But look at, it's working for them at the minute. Yeah. And they're getting results. At the end of the day, this is their second team. So they play a refreshing football and they're entertaining to watch. Like, me and you's not going to go and watch them. We're going to come away saying, win or lose, you're not going to come away saying like that was a poor game. So I tell you, it's refreshing. It's a bit of youth, it's a bit of speed, and I quite enjoy watching them play. But if they are going to really have a serious assault on the championship, it's going to have to be a wee bit more refined for me.
Yeah, well, they're definitely entertaining. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about that. Derrynoose on Wolf Tones then 123 to 8 points for Derrynoose. I don't think anybody's seen this sort of one-sided game coming. Johnny, certainly I didn't see it coming. I know Wolf Tones were down a number of key men. There was weddings and injuries and stuff for Wolf Tones, but Derrynoose really impressive. Really could have had a few goals even at the end of the game, decide to pop over their points. But 123, it's brilliant scoring at any stage of the championship.
Yeah, and Downey's have continued on their good performances. They're a good league campaign, very highly and positive. Well used to scoring big scores, key men getting big scores. McCreesh with a serious goal with a bit of power. Sean Lennon, excellent pass down through the middle and serious power on the effort of that shot, and what a goal. So it was a big score. McNally, I think, came away with 8 or 9 points. That's bread and butter for a man of his calibre, and that's what he does all the time, week in, week out. They're going to be a dangerous team in this draw. There's no doubt about it. It was a massive statement for me, albeit a wedding in Spain and a few guys away, and I think the word sort of got out on that. But still, like Wolf Tone's missing a couple of key players. You still wouldn't be writing them off. I think probably on the face of it, Sean, I think Wolf Tone is probably going to be a wee bit disappointed in the performance in the championship. For me, compared to what me and you know that they're capable of. So on that end of it, it's probably a wee bit disappointing. But fair dues to Derrynoose. They're producing good football. They're playing well. They're really good confidence. Massive amount of scores again. They're another team that's known for spreading the scores out. JJ and the boys there will all chip in with scores. Whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Any given day, Derrynoose is going to have 6, 7, 8 scores. So, and that's on top of the likes of McNally hitting 9 points. So they're doing something right. And as you said there, 123 is massive. So they're going to be a dangerous team in this draw.
And I know I spoke to Davy McCreesh for Armagh TV after the game, Johnny, and sort of making the case to him about their strength and depth too, because you mentioned John Joe Hughes, he come on, scored a 2-pointer, Stephen Keenan come on, scored 2 points, Paddy McKierney coming in around the middle of the field, Sean McGuigan as well, so they seem to be rotating their team a wee bit throughout the championship, which would tell you the team's being picked purely based on what's happening in training. It's all on form, so they do have a lot of squad depth, which is key in any championship, as we've seen even at county level.
The boys absolutely chomping at the bit, and it's because of their league campaign, the way they've managed themselves, and like I said, the variety of different scorers they're hitting week in, week out. So that's creating competition. It's healthy. The team's moving well. They're good enough spirit, and to be honest, they're not a team that would have been on anybody's mind, coming in at the start of the year saying, right, this is going to be a team that's going to put on a serious assault on an intermediate championship. And here they are, they're banging on and they're getting the wins and they're going about their business nicely.
And next one, Johnny, I'll let you take over again. Ballymacnabb 111, Katy 115. I suppose the big score was obviously Barry Malloy's goal. That I know I was joking with you off air, it wouldn't be a strong point. Goal scoring Barry Malloy, but a super score and a super strike. And that's Katy through to the next round as well.
It is, yeah. Katy, listen, it has to be said. Look, I did enjoy watching the game. It was awful conditions. It was very hard underneath and on a very good field now, it has to be said. Clady is absolutely immense. It's just like a bowling green. But it was very slippy on top. Seen a lot of boys going to ground, and understandably. Yeah, I think Barry just threw a leg at that, and it ended up in the corner. But I think as the game went down the stretch, you managed to get yourselves right back into the game after trailing it. Thomas Galvin was a massive key point for me in the game, where he picked up that black card, and that sort of time frame allowed you to come back, rolling back into it. Penalty, the whole lot. The game sort of had everything, and then we seen Katy then kick on, and then very unusual from Rory Grugan coming down the stretch. Just the ball got away from slippy conditions out along the lane, and just with an ankle tap, probably a guy of his calibre is unfortunate, but only his first game back as well, and the same for Galvin, his first game back as well for Katie, so the two men on their first appearance back at two black cards, a massive turning point in both, has to be said, because you got yourselves in a great position that actually thought maybe he was going to push on with it until Barry Malloy got that goal, and it was instrumental at the time, and it just left it that just didn't have the time to claw it back, and it was a difference for me. It was a difference maker in the game, a well balanced game. What could you say about Katie? I think they're going to need to improve, to be honest with you. They're going to need to improve a wee bit more for me. They're going to need to get more football into the likes of Thomas Galvin if they are going to have assault on this championship. I don't think that performance today, I don't think it'll be enough to win a championship. They're going to need to improve, but they've good spread, they've good balance around the field. They've key men, the likes of King in that round the middle. The defence at times, I thought they were solid enough when they were fit to keep you out a right bit and made you walk around the arc to try and free up a shooter. Stuff like that, they're very, very good on. Just thought the forward player for me would have to be a wee bit stronger, and didn't get enough out of like I said, Tomas Galvin. Didn't get enough out of James McCormick. James O'Hara, sorry, keep getting them mixed up. James O'Hara looked like he had a bad twist on the knee that time, which, to be fair, was good tackle. I thought it was good tackle, just folded him over, went down his knee. Young O'Hara, and the conditions just didn't suit him either. So he'll be key to him because James, some guys might take him for granted because he's small and stuff like that, but he's an excellent footballer. He's very, very tidy. Goes about his business very well. It's James O'Hara. Don't want to get that mixed up again, but they'll need to improve, Sean. They'll need to improve in the forward department. That's a big one for me, but they've a bit of time now to work on it.
Yeah, they've 2 weeks, I think, until the quarter final. And the last one, Johnny, is St Paul's 3-18, Whitecross 1-7. This game wasn't live on Armagh TV. We didn't get seeing this one. Probably a result we expected St Paul's to probably win this one. Now, there was only 3 points in it at half time. It was 2-5 to 1-5. Whitecross only scored 2 points in the second half, while St Paul's obviously had a big second half. So they're a team that nobody's going to want to meet in this quarterfinals and throughout the rest of the championship.
Look, they have it all. They've been there, they've done it. They play massive games in the other grounds in intermediate championships, so their team that everybody knew from the get-go that was going to be hanging around at least the quarter-final, semi-final stage. So it's no surprise to anybody. Probably a bit unfortunate, it has to be said, that they weren't probably straight into a quarter-final from the get-go, but look, they went about their business well. It's a massive result. It's a statement. It's a big statement for me. Albeit, like they were going in heavily favourites against Whitecross, and that's no disrespect to Whitecross, but St Paul's have just been further up the road and have been in consecutive years. So I think they're getting themselves to the boil, Sean, at the right time. And this key, we keep saying it all the time because this championship for me has been quality. The draws, even the parents. Even the ones we said this last week about the parents, there's going to be big games, and this one this evening or whatever it is, the draw for the quarter final and intermediate, it's going to be quality as well. So I tell you what, if you can write St Paul's off for anybody else, be brave because there's top teams left in it, and I wouldn't be writing any of them off.
By the time this podcast goes out, Johnny, the draws will probably be made for the playoffs and for the quarterfinals in the senior and intermediate. But as you say, there's some really exciting draws, potential draws to look forward to. We don't know them yet, but we know there's going to be there's going to be 1 or 2 big games in both sides.
Absolutely nail on the head stuff. There's going to be a couple of big clinkers that you're going to see, and maybe some of them potentially could have been championship final ones that we had previous years. you could have Shane's against St Paul's, you could have Sarsfields against St Paul's. They're good. Like, imagine getting one of them there straight off the bat in a quarter final. It's going to be a clinker, So it's a massive potential, and another exciting couple of weeks coming up.
Yeah, most definitely. So that's all we have for our review show. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll look ahead on next week's action. I think it's the junior quarterfinals and the senior playoffs coming up next weekend. So we'll preview all them on Thursday. Thanks to Johnny, and thanks to the Armagh TV team here for helping out as well.